What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the You Know Ball podcast. I am your host, Troll Bro Dude, and before we get into anything else, we actually have some Underdog fantasy stuff related to Sam's Celtics, who sadly just beat the Philadelphia 76ers in Game 2, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But Sam, if you go on Underdog right now, you can – I think that Underdog, they feel bad for me, so they're trying to just give me a layup here, because if you go on Underdog – either Thursday or Friday before Sixers-Celtics Game 3, all you have to do is hit higher on 0.5 points for Jaylen Brown, and you basically get a layup just like we did with the RJ Barrett pick the other day. Then you only have to hit on one other pick in order to get a payout. So you could do LeBron James points, you could do Anthony Davis, you could do Steph Curry. There's plenty of options on Underdog right now if you hit this. And by the way, I don't know if you saw my last ticket, Sam, but I did one yesterday before the game.
You had JB higher on points, right? At 25.
And he hit exactly 25 before he was pulled. So technically not a loss, but also technically not a win. So the streak continues. Yeah. I had Joel lower points because Joel always struggles in his first game back. And I had JB higher points. And unfortunately, both, it did not go through, but we're getting closer to actually hitting. So I'm going to pick one here so that hopefully we can get one right. I'm looking, Steph has 31 for his right now.
Okay.
But, we're going to talk about Lakers Warriors a little bit later, but I just feel like in order for the Warriors to really make a statement in this game, they're going to run a ton of Steph pick and roll because the Lakers showed their cards in the first game. They're committed to running drop with Anthony Davis so he can stay in that paint rim area. And they ran the fourth least pick and rolls that they've run all season in that game. The Golden State Warriors did. So I think that will be a major adjustment in this game. So I'm going to go higher on Steph's points and say that he's going to score more than 31. He's done it 4 times already in the playoffs. So I know they've played a decent amount of games, but it feels like that's a safe pick to have going into this game. So if you put $10 on Jaylen Brown's layup of 0.5 points higher and Steph Curry's 31 points, then you can get $30 payout on there. So go on to Underdog today. Use the promo code SLOP, SLOP, and get a $100 deposit match when you sign up. You can also do their fantasy drafts if you're not in a pick'em state, and they're a lot of fun to do all throughout the playoffs as well.
I'm really looking forward to Steph just going absolutely bananas for 50, and then Jaylen Brown getting ejected in the first minute of the game. So that's that's the only way this can go.
That would be. I'm sitting here just waiting for tomorrow. I'm chilling. Steph goes off, and I'm like, all I have to do. Oh man, I would be so owned if Jaylen Brown got ejected in the game tomorrow.
Yeah, you would hate that. Oh no, my $10. I guess my team just has to win a playoff game.
Oopsie.
Nuts. Oh man.
So last night we have Sixers Celtics Game 2. I did a stream for it. We did not see an appearance from Sam throughout, so that's how you know the game went well for the Celtics.
My own personal credo is nobody likes a man coming in to rub everyone's nose in it. I will only show up to be the bozo clown, to be put in mashups and fun little
movie trailer edits.
Yeah, that's my role on the Sixers podcast. So,
but yeah, it was not a very competitive game, at least after the first half. The first half was somewhat competitive. You could tell they were kind of easing Joel back in. They were having him be more of a defensive. He only took 5 shots in the first half, I think. Yeah. He was more of a defensive rim protector than an offensive hub like he usually is for the Sixers. I think that he was just trying to get his after this injury, see how it looked, get back in shape, all that shit. So This is kind of exactly. I actually went into the game thinking it was going to be a wire-to-wire blowout because that was the kind of statement game that I had anticipated from the Celtics after game one. They kind of let the Sixers hang around, like you said. Harden kills them at the end. They come out with much more defensive intensity in this one. They have much more purpose to the offense, I guess you would say, getting downhill, running the. I thought it was kind of smart that they were actually running a lot of offense through Marcus Smart, especially when Jason Tatum got into foul trouble, because I kept saying on the stream, I was like, the Sixers, the one thing that the Celtics can do to kind of throw off the Sixers defensive strategy with Joel is go 5 out. But if Marcus is the one with the ball, it complicates things a little bit, right? Because you're not going to put Joel on Marcus Smart if he's out at the perimeter, and he's the only one that you'd feel comfortable with leaving alone from 3. And you essentially you're guaranteed that Joel either has to give up that open 3 on the perimeter, which leads to a lot of open shots, or he has to leave the paint, which is what the goal of the Celtics is. And honestly, in the first half, I thought the process for the Celtics was good. I thought that a lot of shots weren't falling, but they were getting good looks. I felt like the Sixers, every time that it felt like the Sixers could hang in this game, they just completely would blow it with either letting up a quick run, going on having a scoring drought of their own, or just honestly, I kind of felt it's terrible to say. I was like, maybe I'm just coping here, but I'm kind of glad that we got it felt like we got all of the bad things that we usually do against the Celtics out of the way in this game. We shot like shit. A lot of the role players were virtually unplayable. The stars didn't live up to, obviously Harden didn't live up to game one. Embiid was not his normal self. And that was kind of what sunk them. Like they hung around until halftime, and everyone keeps pointing at this one moment in the first half that I keep pointing to as well. And we pointed to on the stream, the Sixers were down I believe it was 8 points, maybe 6 points. Near halftime, George Niang gets the ball at the top of the key, has a wide open 3, turns it down, which then leads into him driving directly into Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart blocks it, gets an outlet pass down. Al Horford kicks it to Derek White in the corner. Derek White hits the 3 to put the Celtics up. I believe it was 11 before halftime. So that's the difference between being down potentially 5 or 6 at halftime and 11 at halftime. And that was where I was like, yeah, it's just not our night. They couldn't hit a fucking shot. The Celtics defense was completely locked in. And even with Jason Tatum, honestly, not even really being a factor in this game.
Interesting. So interesting. But he's such a good, he's so important. It's weird that Jaylen Brown had a good game and the Celtics won, and Jason Tatum no-showed and nobody noticed. That's so weird. It's so interesting. Anyway, you were saying.
Well, it wasn't even that he no-showed. It was that what did he go 1 for 9 from the field, and he also was in foul trouble. He barely played real minutes in this. I think he had 4 fouls in 20 minutes that he played or something. It was even for you as a Jason Tatum skeptic, as the number 1 superstar guy, it was a out of character kind of weird game for him, I would say.
He wasn't there to absorb possessions by dribbling for 8 seconds. Everyone got to touch the ball and got to get their shots up and feel a lot better about themselves. He did have a pretty good baseline in that loss in game 1 though. So that was cool. I love leaning into this. Yeah, Celtics fans would be so mad at me if they could hear this. My thing is Marcus Smart, Rob Williams, innocent. Jason Tatum needs more blame. Jaylen Brown probably gets the same credit. But I mean, I agree with pretty much everything you said. I was actually really impressed with the Sixers in the first half because I actually thought the Celtics were playing really well. I thought the Celtics were playing really well, and the Sixers hung around. But it was the opposite of game 1, where I came into the stream and I was like, I'm alarmed, because I did not think the Sixers were playing well in game 1 in the first half, and they just hung with the Celtics. This was the Sixers with Joel back, looked like a totally different team. Defensively, just made things harder on the Celtics. It made sense to me that those teams were pretty close at halftime. This kind of turned into a 3-point like math thing. And then I think once the Sixers were down by quite a bit, like, it just kind of
snowballed.
It turned into that Warriors thing, where like you let go of like once you're down a certain amount, it just fucking
front runners.
Yeah, you let go exactly. No, seriously though.
Like, no, I mean, like we had said it was funny because during the stream I was like, look, I can get discouraged, but this is what the Celtics do. They're a 3-point shooting team that when they are shooting and making their shots, they're unbeatable. Like, no, you're not going to beat them if they come out and Grant Williams and Malcolm Brogdon make 4 straight threes. Like, you're just not, like, if their role players are hitting their shots, they're probably going to win the game, and that's kind of what you have to live with. Like, the only thing I was concerned with from the Sixers perspective, like, I'm not even really that concerned. They did their job. They stole game 1. I also thought that Harden had a few in and out shots that really swung.
He really did.
Yeah. The first half, like it was like I think he had 3. He had the last one was like, all right, this is not our night. If that shot isn't going in, it went in, hit the backboard, and then spun back around and out. And I was like, okay, well, what can you do? Those kind of things. It felt like the Celtics had more energy getting to loose balls. It felt like the rebounding thing is a real issue for the Sixers, I think.
Yeah.
Tobias has been great offensively. It's a tough matchup for him in terms of the defensive end and also the rebounding stuff because the Celtics are the best rebounding team in the NBA. The Sixers are one of the worst. And a lot of this stuff sometimes comes down to effort and sometimes just comes down to lucky bounces. It felt like they didn't have the effort and also all the bounces were going to the Celtics. So if you put those two together, the Celtics just kind of out-hustled them and outworked them in this game.
I think Al Horford, at one point, he was 1 for 8 from 3. He might have finished like 2 for 9 or something like that from 3. But he just had a series of just like misses. It seemed like every time Al missed the 3, the Celtics would get the rebound just because of the weird. It was those Warriors rebounds where like you missed the 3 and it just springs out. Somebody might be in possession under the basket, but it just bounces over their head. And
that's why we were mad at Tobias because Tobias had 2 opportunities there to get an offensive rebound and he didn't get either one. And then it led to an Al 3. That was when the Sixers called a timeout. That was when the game was starting to get away from them a little bit. Honestly, adjustment wise, I think that if I'm looking at this from the Sixers perspective, I think they're going to shoot better at home. I think that they always do. I think that you have to hope that Joel's, because here's the thing, like it's funny that your best player, in my opinion, your best player.
Incorrect, but I can see how you think that. Yeah.
Had and also, I mean, what has Jalen missed? Like 5 shots the whole series? Like he's been incredible from a shooting perspective. He's been extremely good.
Yeah, but he turns the ball over sometimes in games that they win. So that's bad.
I was going to say he did have a few turnovers last night where I was like, okay, I can see, but the Sixers couldn't capitalize on it because the Celtics transition defense was actually really good last night.
It's like, look, Jalen would turn the ball over sometimes. Smart does that a lot too. And this was like a classic Smart game, which is like why I'm like a ride or die. Like Smart, real heads know. Smart. I mean, I'm sure everyone's thrilled with Smart for the reckless play. Tobias Harris. I was gonna say I saw a lot of tweets about that last night.
Was it? I think it was PJ Tucker that he got.
PJ Tucker. Sorry. I don't know. PJ Tucker. Sorry. But that's why I love Marcus Smart because he has that leverage. He always seems to come up in big games and like he is like a weirdly skilled player that people forget about just because he like lets himself be kind of shoehorned into being like the defensive ace, but he can actually like run an offense. It drives me insane that Joe kind of separates Smart and Rob and kind of has Malcolm Brogdon tied to Rob's minutes because I think that's just like fucking brutal for our spacing. I know Malcolm Brogdon like technically shoots 3s, but that's like not what he does. He just drives at the basket and it's like Rob is always there. You should have Al.
I noticed that last night. Rob was rolling and Brogdon didn't hit him on the roll, but
Brogdon never hits him on the roll.
Brogdon didn't hit him on the roll, but then Brogdon hit a pull-up
shot.
Yeah, and I was like, but that's the thing is that Malcolm Brogdon, in Sixers fans' eyes, Malcolm Brogdon is basically prime Klay Thompson, but with a dribble drive game. Yeah. So like because he just never misses against us. Like, I don't know what it is, what has possessed this man, but has been such a Sixers killer this year. Him and Karis LeVert, who were historically not even really Sixers killers, both were fantastic against the Sixers, especially as shooters and scorers this year. And like, I think that you guys had a get right game from a shooting perspective. You had a get right game from a defensive perspective. And the Sixers basically had everything go wrong for them in terms of the things that I was worried about coming into this series, the rebounding advantages, the shooting variant stuff. And then how does Embiid factor into all of this? Because it's not like the one that, like, we love Joel, but like the one thing that is hard about having a superstar like Joel is he's not a seamless fit in terms of like, oh, he missed a game and then you can just pop him right back in. It's like everyone takes a little bit of time to recalibrate what it's like because Joel has a lot of offense. He runs stuff through the post. He's usually at the middle of actions. You have to run drop with him instead of switching like you do with Paul Reed. And this was a little bit of an adjustment game. I'm glad they got it out of the way this early because everyone was like, Joel shouldn't have played. Joel shouldn't have played. And I was like, he absolutely should have played. Like, first off, there's no difference between how he felt last night and how he's going to feel tomorrow. Like, he'll probably, with this kind of injury, it's like he's going to have pain and he's going to play through it. And he might be limited mobility wise, but like they need him out here if they want to win this series. And they need to kind of get him back in rhythm and back into it so that by game 3 or 4, which aren't as much, they are games you would like to win, but they aren't must wins because you stole that game 1. Right. That those games are now crucial for Joel to be in shape and everyone to kind of know their their spots on the floor, how everything's going to be run, how everything's going to be done in this series. And then the main adjustment, honestly, the only adjustment I would make going into the next game is I just don't think Jordan Yang can play in this series. And I talked about it before. I just don't think that, I think that our role players are all limited, and I think that you need to enhance the level of activity on defense with a guy like Daniel House, or even maybe going smaller and putting Shake Milton out there when the offense is a little bit stagnant like it was.
How about just more minutes for McDaniels? Or maybe McDaniels has been playing and I just don't notice him. But
he played last night. He
had a
rough game.
Yeah.
I mean, McDaniels' value is all going to come down to, for me, with McDaniels, his value is always going to come down to, can he stay out of foul trouble and can he hit his shots? And he hasn't hit a 3 in this series. He took 3 so far in the series. He missed all of them. They didn't look like bad shots. They just didn't go in. So obviously it doesn't feel like he has much of an impact on the game. And then the foul trouble, like he had, I think, 2 dumb fouls last night. But I do think that the idea of what you want, because you're going to get killed on the glass and he can provide that rebounding, and also defense-wise, he's one of the only guys that can really hang with the wings that the Celtics do have.
And by the way, PJ Tucker is like showing up too.
Weirdly moving really well on defense.
Yeah, he's been like very fucking disruptive. I've noticed that he's like really. Normally, when the Celtics look out of sorts on offense, it's something that PJ Tucker blew up. Usually, or Joel protecting the rim. Let me ask you this, because you watch more Sixers than I do. I was a little surprised by this start, and I want to go over. What about Melton for Maxey and having Maxey come off the bench staggered against the Joel minutes since he's not moving so well?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thought. We tried it earlier in the year. The problem is that Maxey, first off, if we're going to win this series, Maxey needs to play 40 minutes a game. So what's the difference in really coming off the bench versus starting? Because the reason why I think
can I tell you
what?
Yeah, it's Joel and how Joel moves, because Maxey is just like electric in transition, and just like as long as Joel is out there and hurt, you're gonna be like 4-on-5 in transition.
Sure.
So I think that kind of neuters that aspect of it. Now, most of the time Maxey's taking it himself and he's getting a layup, and who cares? It doesn't matter if Joel makes it up the floor or not. But if there's like a trailer, is there like a Paul Reed coming down the floor behind you if you miss, instead? I don't know. I just think it might benefit the Sixers a little bit to have Maxey out there all the time when Joel is not.
Sure.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I also think that I kind of look at it like, I think that they've always anchored Maxey and Embiid's minutes together because Maxey himself isn't a great isolation shot creator. He kind of needs like a big out there like Joel to set screens, to get separation. And also he's our best shooter. So in terms of spacing out on offense, it's always great to have him out there. I'd like him to be a little bit more of a willing shooter. One of the things that's really driven me crazy about him is that I think that he should be putting up 8 to 10 threes a game. And in this Boston matchup, because your guys' defensive rotations and your length, like the closeouts are so good, and they always almost force him to get downhill and get into the paint, which is fine, but like realistically, even if you need to spot up a little bit further, I'm not talking Jordan Poole range here, but like Eric Gordon used to for the Rockets, where like you're a step behind the 3-point line so that you can take those long threes, and like they just need more variance out of him, because he is, once again, like you said, electric in transition. He's a little bit limited as a creator in the half court. He can make shit happen when plays break down, and he can attack gaps. And he works so well off the stars offensively that it is tough for me to see. Like, the reason why the Maxey to the bench thing didn't work is because Maxey can't really lead bench units. Like, Shake leads bench units probably better than Maxey. And now, like, you're always going to have one of Harden or Embiid on the court, so you might be able to get away with it a little bit. But I would like to just see those three kind of figure it out over the course of a series, because I just don't think that you're gonna win this series if you have, like, unless you go smaller. And I love Melton, but like, unless Melton's hitting all of his threes, it's going to be a little bit like the Celtics were able to get guys. They were able to close out so quick yesterday that they were getting Niang to miss, not take open shots. They were getting Melton to drive to the basket. Even PJ offensively was terrible yesterday, because the Celtics were able to just be like, all right, we're going to leave him open and we're going to dare him to take the shot. And if he doesn't take the shot, we'll slowly close out on him and we'll make him make a play off the bounce. And the thing that the Sixers can't do, there's like 3 guys post closeout on the Sixers that can do anything. Other than, like, the stars don't really count, but like Maxey, Tobias, and McDaniels are the 3 that I trust when the defense closes out to make a play in a pinch, to get downhill, to get to the mid-range, whatever it is. And that's part of the reason why I think that you kind of need to try the House and McDaniels stuff, because I think House and McDaniels are going to cause chaos on the defensive end. They're going to potentially turn the ball over, get more transition opportunities. And then on the other end, if the team is getting closed out on, then they can at least do a little bit with the ball, because you guys, when you were locked in yesterday, like, you just we weren't getting open threes. And that's going to be something that we're going to need to figure out over the course of this series as we integrate Joel back into the offense, because the offense honestly looked terrible. And it does have me worried about like how the offense looks around Joel in the playoffs when the role players aren't shooting 50% from 3. Because you're going to have a game. There will be at least one game this series where the Sixers can't miss and the offense looks amazing. But what happens when the shots aren't falling and guys can't do anything because the Celtics are just on top of all of their defensive rotations? And that's where it really concerns me what this Sixers half-court offense looks like. Because, like, you can't rely on transition the whole game. You can't rely on Joel and Harden just to fucking beast mode you and carry you every single game. The role players are going to have to figure out some stuff as well. But ultimately, this series still, to me, comes down to, can Embiid have a game or two like Harden did in game 1? Does he have it in him? Like, is he healthy enough, and is he that guy enough to just take over a game in the playoffs? And honestly, I don't really think that he's done it many times in his career. He's had random games against like lower competition where he's dominated, but against a really good defense when locked in, when you guys actually give a shit, it has been tougher for him. And I think that that's something that you need to see out of him despite the injury. He came back. They said 4 to 6 weeks, like it's grade 2. The other night we had a physical therapist in the chat on our playback, and they said some of these injuries can be 2 to 4 weeks. So I'm assuming that it's all in this gray area where, like, but yesterday he only had 12 days off since he had played. Like, it wasn't even 2 full weeks. So my hope is that in the next 2 games that he gets back into rhythm, that he gets a little bit better with the mobility, because he's just not there yet. And that game got him into shape. The next 2 games are going to kind of define what happens for the rest of this. So before we move on and we talk about like Coach Bud and all the other news that happened, what was your prediction for game 3? Because you predicted this exact. So your first, after game 1, you made a tweet thread where you predicted everything that would happen. And in game 2, you nailed exactly what happened. Celtics come out and basically just destroy them.
I was going to say the Celtics. I said Celtics stop fucking around and win by 26. It was actually 34 or something like that. But, close enough. So I said, I also I'm going to be a little bit wrong. I thought game 3 would be Joel's first game back.
Sure.
I thought they might sit him. So I thought Joel was going to look a little rough. I thought Jalen was going to be okay. And I think this is going to be a closer game, but I think the Celtics are still going to win.
So you think the Celtics win game 3?
Yeah, by 11. And then doo-doo diaper disaster
game 4.
In game 4, like a PJ Tucker game or something, opening the door to the Joel masterclass on the road in game 5.
Gotcha.
Where the Celtics have like 5 turnovers down the stretch and blow it, leading to the Sixers are up 3-2, going back home to Wells Fargo Center. Like, are the Celtics over? This is a disaster that they're doing this. And the Celtics, I again predict blowout in game 6. Another 33-point blowout in game 6. And then opening the door to a game 7 where the Celtics are like plus 62 in the series. But it's going there to game 7. I'm just saying that it is not Jover, Sixers fans. Let me tell you. I will assure you it is not Jover.
I did a little bit of research yesterday because I keep saying we know the history of this Celtics team, and I did pick the Celtics to win this series in 6. But I went back and I looked at the Milwaukee and the Miami series last year, and it was like Milwaukee wins game 1, the Celtics come out and they have their get right game in game 2 and they win. Miami wins game 1, the Celtics come out and have their game. Like, it's like literally every series, it's like, wow, how did the Celtics lose game 1? Oh, they destroyed the team in game 2. So this has been a pattern for the Celtics for quite a while now. And other thing is, I
will caveat though. I do think this Sixers team even with a handicapped Joel is much better than either of those teams. A Middleton-less Bucks team and that Heat team is whack.
The only thing is, I will say that Heat team had and Harden had the game so far that showed that he has, at least when the shots are falling, he has the upside of a playoff Jimmy type game. But once again, the Heat at least have a guy who can have that game. And I know Joel has it in him, but I need to see it still. It's been 5 years of him in the playoffs where it's like he's had really good games and like games where he carries the team through 3 quarters, but then just runs out of gas in the 4th quarter. And like at this point, I'm not saying that I think that this Sixers team is better than that Miami team last year, but I don't think that the gap is like massive because they had the coaching advantage and because of the Jimmy factor of just like Jimmy goes off for 45 in Boston and, fucking destroys and does whatever. But I will say, we talked about this before the game yesterday. Did I tell you this? The only team that's won game 2 on the road after winning game 1 in the past 5 years, if you don't count the bubble, because the bubble didn't have road games.
Won a team. The Chicago Bulls against the Boston Celtics.
No, last 5 years, not going far back to the Jimmy Spo. Or Jimmy Gibbs Bulls.
I don't know. I wouldn't know.
So that would be the 2021 Dallas Mavericks, who started the series off 2-0 against the Clippers. And then that was the series where every game the road team won in 2021. Do you remember this? Every game was road team wins until game 7, and the Clippers won a close one at home in game 7.
Mm-hmm.
So other than that, every single game this year, last year, going back to 2018, 2019, if you exclude the bubble, the home team literally has won basically every single time when they lose in game 1. So this was something I expected going into the game. I'm glad the Sixers at least fought for the first half. I'm kind of annoyed that they fell back into some of their worst habits and that the Celtics made some good adjustments. And Psycho Joe got to yell at the media afterwards over getting mad that he didn't get credit for doing his job. I was like, come on, dude. Like, if you guys lost game 1 and we were at full strength and like you just whatever, like I would be like, okay, I'll give him a pass, like whatever. But for him to come out and be like, oh, you don't want to give me any credit for making any adjustments, basically, Joe Mazzulla.
He rule. I like what the thing that sucks about Joe Mazzulla is I do love the genuine contempt he has for the fucking media,
sure,
and I want to like him so bad. Like I just want them to play normal. Like the fact, like they played normal in game 2. I'm thrilled. Joe Mazzulla being a dickhead to reporters afterwards, awesome. Great. Perfect. Yeah, like absolutely. I'm all in on that. So Joe, Sleepy Joe, he's allowed to be Psycho Joe when he when they win.
When he loses, he's Sleepy Joe. When they win, he's Psycho Joe.
Yeah, he's Psycho Joe. Psycho Joe is back. He's ready. He will not back down from any fight. Let me tell you, that's Psycho Joe.
Chiodo tweeted and he said, Doc Rivers. What did he say? Doc Rivers is 11 wins away from being a Philadelphia legend. like we can like Doc if we win this series, basically, until we lose to the 8 seed Heat in the Eastern Conference Finals.
I feel like this is the one. There would just be so many demons banished though if you guys won this series. Like
there would be, but then this the ultimate demon in Pat Riley.
Yeah, I was gonna say the literal demon. Yeah. No, that's Brian raises a good point. He's the Psycho Joker. He's the Joker.
Wait, did Tatum really lead in plus minus at plus 24?
I don't know.
That's amazing.
Very goofy. I can't. Yeah. My beautiful Rob was hooping. My beautiful Marcus was hooping. That's all I care about. So I big win.
I just want to have a message to PJ Tucker and D. Anthony Melton and George Niang. Do not drive when Robert Williams is in the paint. Take the open 3, guys. Please just like I need and the Sixers need to lean into shooting these open 3s. Because the Celtics are going to get them up at such an insane clip, and they're going to get enough open 3s that they're going to win the math battle on any given night. The Sixers need to lean into some of those tendencies that they have not leaned into. They're a very good shooting team. They were the number 1 in percentage this year and have like 4 guys who can hit open 3s, 5 guys maybe that can hit open 3s. And they need to lean into those tendencies. So,
also, that was the grifting too. I think that was something
back a little bit, but I kind of maybe this is a little bit of a weird take from me. Mm-hmm. I kind of think the grifting gets us out of rhythm in the playoffs.
That's how I feel about. That's how I kind of feel about Tatum because Tatum. We talked about it's a free throw merchant.
We're both grifting left and right last night in the first half, and no one could get anything going. And then in the second half, when they stopped calling fouls, and in game 1 they didn't call fouls at all. And both offenses were just rolling. So, like, I'm not saying that you shouldn't, like, hunt for fouls because, like, it's beneficial, especially for a team built around Joel Embiid and James Harden that those guys run out of gas and they need breaks during games. But, like, at the same time, like, try to get some offense going before you fall back on that grifting and like, get a little bit of rhythm because, I don't know, I think it does kind of just get, like, throw things out of whack when you're just completely relying on foul drawing.
Yeah. I am bracing for one of these Wells Fargo's games to be like the 50 free throw, like,
sure,
you know, like one that like just admit it, free throws made you cry.
Sure,
like game that
also the Lakers seem to be the only team that get that whistle in the playoffs. Like this, the Sixers really have not shot that many free throws through. Yeah. And I know Joel missed 2 games, but like they barely shot any free throws on the road in the Brooklyn series, and they only had like 1 game where they shot a lot of free throws.
Yeah. By the way, shout out to Reggie Miller, who I think he said there's like one time where Jalen went up, and I can't remember. It was either like Maxey or somebody just clearly strips him cleanly, and Reggie Miller's like, "Yeah, you can see you got him on the wrist right there."
Yeah, we were like screaming on the stream. I'm pretty sure. It was clean.
That shit makes me so mad when it goes against my team, and I just like laugh at like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like I'm looking at the thing, and it's
Joel Embiid falling over when he gets bumped by Grant Williams. Good.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, it's all fine. We're gonna get I'm waiting for the grift. The 50-point game is going to be the one that makes all the Celtics fans mad. That's going to that's coming one of these games. I'm guessing it's going to be game 4 because I'm guessing that's the one where we're going to lose. So,
all right, we'll see. I mean, now it comes down to the Celtics needing to steal one on the road. The Sixers stole one on the road. Tomorrow, I'll be streaming on playback for that game. If you guys want to hop on, we will be doing it. It's a lot of fun. We have even last night when they were losing, I was like, I had a good time. It was fun. Yeah. Obviously, a lot more fun for me on Monday. But
let me ask you final Sixers Celtics thoughts, and we can move on to me being wrong about the Lakers. If you're Adam Silver, and you're obviously you have the script, you're trying to put your finger on the scale. Are you deploying Scott Foster for game 4 or game 6?
I think 4. If the Celtics win game 3, you got to have – I think he wants a 7-game series for this series very badly because he knows 2 markets, 2 legacy teams, two guys that were in the MVP conversation, like
2 rivals.
Yeah, exactly.
Handling disciples, the most important thing.
True, yes. Yeah. We know that pull. This is why the Knicks get such good ratings because RJ Barrett.
Yeah, it's a handling guy. Yeah. Can you imagine if Steph and LeBron were handling guys? Like,
they would be the ratings would be through the roof.
Through the roof, yeah,
absolutely through the roof.
But Handlin worked with Steph. His shot, he turned into Michael Kidd-Gilchrist before the league. Alternate timeline. Sorry, Drew. No, that's not true. Don't send this to him. He
parody.
Parody. Don't block me. I love your takes.
We love you, Drew. Keep doing good work.
Keep doing good work. Yep.
Okay, so that is the end of the Sixers Celtics portion. If you want the rest of this episode where we talk about the recent news of the Bucks firing Coach Bud today, which we literally just found out about. We're going to talk about some candidates for that job. Also, we're going to talk about DeAndre Ayton and Kyrie slop that we're hearing now, some random stuff that's popping out up there. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Lakers' potential to win the West. And then we're going to read an article about Nikola Jokic that I just thought was really funny. And then we'll riff on the Heat having devil magic, of course. So link is in the description for the Uniball Patreon. Sign up today to get the rest of this episode.